Hi, everyone, and welcome to Live at 5. You are live with Stride. This evening, we are going to be talking about my story. Um, as you know, it's the first week of May. Hard to believe we're already there. It's also CMHA's Mental Health Week. And this year, the theme of Mental Health Week is my story. As you know, stories help build connections and strong communities. They allow us to deliver information, to promote empathy and understanding, and also to build those relationships with others. We all carry our own valuable story, but it's also important to consider how we share our stories, not just for ourselves, but also others around us. We can share our stories safely, we can share them in ways that empower us. Today, we're going to be going over effective ways that you can share your story and elements of your story. We're going to talk about how to amplify our voices and the voices of our community while destigmatizing mental health and raising awareness. With that, I'm pleased to I'll introduce myself. My name is Matthew, and I'm a youth employment specialist with Stride. And we have our panel of experts today. I'll turn that over to them.
Go ahead, Jen.
I thought you were going first. Hi, guys. My name is Jen Blazek. I am an employment peer mentor here at Stride. My pronouns are she, her, and I am very honored to be here today.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Crystal Daynard. I am an employment support coordinator here at Stride. And while I don't operate from a peer perspective in my role, I am a peer with lived experience and very excited to really talk about the impact and the power that we can have in sharing our experiences with one another.
Hello, everybody. I am Nicole. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm an employment peer mentor with Stride. We're happy to have you here today, and may the 4th be with you. So thanks for joining us for some fun.
What does May the 4th mean?
Crystal, it's Star Wars. May the 4th, use the Force, all the fun.
Okay, May the 4th. All right, I got it. Sorry, forgot. It's been a long day.
So before we get started, just so everyone is aware, we are aware that many of you are joining us on Facebook. So welcome. We will be monitoring Facebook for any questions you may have, any comments, or anything you'd like to share. I will be moderating our live today. So any questions you bring, I will be sure to bring those to the group when there is an opportunity. So please share what you're comfortable to share through our Facebook chat.
Thanks, Matt. And also big shout out to Jessica, our virtual service specialist, who is doing some of the behind the scenes stuff as well. So we are incredibly grateful. We are going to start us off. So when we're sharing our story and we're building our resilience story, how do we do this? So we can share them meaningfully by framing them in resilience. So allowing us to acknowledge the pain or the struggles of the experience, but focusing on the impact of our experiences. So the things we may have learned and the actions we took and supports that we found helpful. That is the first important thing. So you may take a situation you struggled with and reframe it. So where were the opportunities? What did you learn? What was helpful? What did you gain? Right? Because we all struggle, we all experience stuff, but I believe, and Crystal and Jen, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's so much power in learning from them and learning on ways to go forward.
Absolutely. I also believe in the ability to accept the feelings that these experiences invoke, right? Because these are valid and very real situations that I'm speaking for myself, I've experienced, right? So it's not about ignoring the fact that I went through it. It's accepting the fact that now that I have experienced it, what, as you mentioned, how did I learn from it? What are some impacts on it? So when sharing stories, it is important to look at the situation for what it was, the good, the bad, the ugly. And now when you are ready to retell it or share it as part of a strength or resilience story, as my story hashtag my story is all about, is I finding that ability to showcase the feelings that come from it.
I literally have nothing to add because that literally says it all. Good job, Jen.
Absolutely. I love our team. You know, we find a way to put perspectives on things and wrap it in a nice little bow when we present it. So I think that's fantastic. The biggest thing that we've learned when sharing our story is, why am I talking? There's a TED Talk on it. You can take a look at it. But ideally, it's, why are we sharing? So, but first, obviously, we take that step back and we ask, what will I share? So does my share connect with an aspect of the other person's journey? So am I using it for the opportunity of connection? And how much detail will I share? We will get into more of the do's and do nots later, but we will go more in depth as we go. What is my purpose in sharing? So to share for exploration, are we validating? Are we inspiring? What is the reason? Is it in service of the listeners and not just about me? What's the risk to others, right? Because what we're sharing, when we're sharing our story and our lived experience, we are sharing such a vulnerable part of ourselves, right? I'm sure we all have some struggles with mental health, whether you have mental illness or not, or identify as someone who has mental illness or addiction or not. 1 in 5 have mental illness, 5 in 5 have mental health. So I'm sure we can all relate to some degree on the challenges that can come with that, right? So what is the risk to others when I'm sharing? Will this enhance or hinder the conversation? So am I using it as a tool to help build the person up? Or am I going to maybe elicit a strong emotion, or maybe the word was trigger or activate that response in somebody? So what is the risk, the pros and the cons as you're exploring that? And will I cause harm? Shame, blame, create comparison, re-traumatize? Like, has anybody experienced when you share something and they're like, oh yeah, well, I went through this and I did this.
The
And
one-ups.
right, the
one-ups.
one-ups all the time. It's like, oh yeah, well, you got to be like, I got C, so now I have to do this. Then like, you know, so we try really hard to not compare ourselves to people in that way, but it's challenging because you're also trying to empathize with the person. So sometimes we don't do it on purpose either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we
And
come
then-
also, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, please go.
I'm just, from a basis of peer support, when we're seeing or meeting people where they're at, the emphasis is to do no harm. And I think that when we're building our story, it's to ensure that we do no harm and that there is no impact. But I also think that in a sense here, when we're building this, is building authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
the true self. Again, what you see is what you get. Like, some of us, can truly just accept where we are today because of everything that's happened, right? So bringing that to the table, I think, is really important. Do you seek to be validated? I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I do. And that's where I need to take that, again, going back to that purpose and intention, is when I am coming into a space, I need, again, it's part of my job, but it's also part of that, when I'm in the community as well. What's my intention? Why am I speaking? What am I trying to get across? Am I looking for sympathy? Am I looking for somebody to say, oh, Jen, I'm so sorry? Or am I looking at empowering somebody?
Mhm.
And that's, leaving that room or that space is hoping that you impart something of you that will make the other feel fantastic. And that's, I don't know, but that's a goal that I have when I share.
Jen, I just want to acknowledge that I think the strength that you have, obviously I've known you for years, but the strength that you have to be vulnerable to share that, sometimes you do need validation. I think that is such an important part of recovery and where we're at and what we're looking for. As we know in peer support, it's not about our journey. We can help walk alongside individuals, right? And I know when I do work with peers in different contexts, what I do is if I can help further solidify the relationship or provide an example where something has been helpful for me, and again, that's my personal experience. I never want to say, oh, well, you need to do this because it worked for me, right? We talk about, you know, with our mental health journeys, having a toolbox. Well, I've got a toolbox of like 50 things, and on any given day, 49 of them aren't going to work. I just have to keep going through, right? So it's kind of the same thing. So I do really want to acknowledge that, because I do think it's a tremendous strength. And to know that in the moment, sometimes you're reflecting in action, I guess that's vital to not only how we present ourselves and support others, but how we continue to support ourselves. So
Yeah.
just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And building on that, right? When you're sharing, what is the risk to yourself, right? Are you ready to share, and will it have a negative impact on you? So when I think of, am I ready to share? I'm going to speak from me and say that when I share later my resilience story, I'm probably not going to include everything that's encompassed in that story, right? Because there's some parts that, you know, maybe I'm still healing through or processing or trying to work through, right? So sharing that part of my story might not be helpful, for one, for you, right? And two, for me, because maybe sharing that may elicit a strong response in myself, right? So not only am I ensuring that the space is safe for everyone here, but I'm also ensuring that it's safe for me. And I think that's really important to be mindful of. So there's some things that absolutely I'm not ready to share, but what I am ready to share, I know is going to have just as much impact.
And remember, we each have a bucket, right? And in that bucket is our capacity. And in that moment, we have whatever we can to share. And if there's a space, like you said, where you don't have it in that bucket to put in that effort, then again, honoring yourself and doing that. So I applaud you for identifying that. Again, that's part of that authenticity, as well as that vulnerability. And your want to either go there, or giving yourself permission not to go there. So again, bravo for that.
And treating yourself with compassion, right? I think
Absolutely.
it's a learned skill. I've learned over the years.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm really good at it. Other days, not so much at all. And yeah, I think just treating ourselves with kindness, and you're right, giving ourselves permission to feel the way that we feel and to be okay with it, because we have our feelings. Nobody, this is our internal life that we've got going on, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are safer alternatives, right? So if we're not ready, we can acknowledge the experience, then discuss impacts, learnings, and then openly share about feelings, meanings, thoughts, impacts, and that kind of stuff, right? So you may want to remain neutral. So medications, for example, are part of some people's journey and work well, and they may have side effects, and journeys with medications are personal, right? So while you might identify that, you know, medication works for me and that's part of my journey, and I support everybody's coping strategies and ways and treatments that work for them, but maybe we won't go into detail about what medications we're on, because what might work for me might not work for Crystal, or what works for Crystal might not work for Jen, or however that looks, right? So it's important to be mindful of that too. And also remembering that you're going to remain neutral with experiences for services that are personal, right? So we can support people to explore options open to them and explore the different offerings of service. So supporting self-determination, which is huge, one, at our organization, two, in peer work, and three, I think just in life, in my opinion, because, you know, we do want to honor that you are the expert in your own journey. You know you better than anybody. And there's not a parent, a doctor, a psychiatrist. Nobody can tell you what you're experiencing. They can help support you in how you're feeling and maybe help to manage the symptoms and that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you know your body and your mind better than anybody else. Right? And honoring that is important, and the experiences with different providers, right? So therapy, again, therapy works great for me. Maybe it doesn't work well for Jen, or maybe Crystal finds meditation more helpful. I don't know. I'm spitballing examples. I don't know what they're going to share today. So I am not putting the words in their mouth at all. I'm just saying, as example wise, we all have different ways of coping, right? So when we are sharing, we're going to be supporting people to share their needs, their gratitude, and their concerns with services they may interact with. Things we may want to avoid. We're going to want to avoid sharing details about trauma. So there's this analogy that I've always loved, and it makes me hungry every single time I share it. But when you share about having a burger, do you sit with a friend and go, oh, well, I have pickles in my burger and I have onions and I didn't put lettuce in it because I don't like it? Or like, you just go, no, I'm having a burger and it's great. We don't go into the details of the burger, right? And I love burgers. I have like burgers almost every Friday night. It's a problem. It's burger nights Friday. Everybody knows. So the analogy makes me hungry. But it's true, right? We share about having our burger, but not what's in it. Just like we might share the headline of having trauma, but not sharing what the trauma is. And that can be just as impactful too, because you can still relate to somebody by saying, yeah, I've experienced trauma. I don't have to go into the detail of my trauma for me to connect with somebody and empathize with somebody. So I think that's something really important to remember.
Can I just add a point here too?
Yes,
is that
please.
when we think of trauma, there's what we call big T trauma and little T trauma. We're not here to debate what is a traumatic experience for somebody or another, because we all have different stuff that we carry with us, and it's not up to us to determine if something is traumatic or not. Rather that we can all pretty much identify that there have been some types of trauma in people's lives. And so how we process that is really part of our own individual journey. So again, it's not about well, my trauma is worse than your trauma. Like that's not helpful. So
Absolutely.
And one of the things I love talking about is the fact there is no magic pill. Because if there was, there'd be one major rich person and everybody would be healthy. Right? There is no magic pill. There is no magic combo or just snap of the fingers and everything is going to be okay. And while I'm sharing part of my story, it will be about how I incorporated and learned about the different aspects of, whatever therapies and tools and tricks and strategies that were offered to me. Because if one pill, one strategy, one thing worked, then we would all be doing the same thing. We're all human, we're all different. And this is the beauty of being here. You are you, I'm me, and we're here to explore and share the differences and the similarities of our story.
absolutely.
Definitely. And as mentioned before, right, we might avoid sharing about specifics of medication names and dosages, right? Or medical advice, encouraging or discouraging medications.
I only play a doctor on TV with my Google medical degree, just so you know.
Come on, Crystal.
Google WebMD, like we're all certified.
Yeah.
Dr. Google told me so.
Yes.
I said, I'm not a therapist. I just played one on TV.
Exactly, right. And humor is such a big part of it for us too. And that's why you're going to see it throughout our share and the presentation and the live, because humor is just so big for these types of conversations, right? I always tell people, if I'm not laughing, I'm crying. So I'd rather laugh.
Sometimes I laugh so hard I cry.
That's me too. That definitely happens. And when sharing about our story as well, one of the biggest things, or the most important things to be mindful of, is the power of language, right? So the words we use matter. How we speak to ourselves and about ourselves is important. So some words are more helpful to our resilience story and can help empower and embolden us, right? So some examples, and we're going to go more into this, but some examples of some helpful ones are someone living with, someone that experiences. And before we go into what words strengthen you, we're going to role model reframing because I'm going to ask for some examples of words that maybe aren't the most helpful and can be a little bit more harmful to maybe include in your resilience story. Crystal and Jen, I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I am so sorry. But is there one that we can think of?
I recently came across the word triggered, and saw an alternative to that, as opposed to instead being triggered, saying something like, you know, my symptoms are activated, or I'm feeling activated emotions. Another example was, like, my house looks like a bomb went off.
Yeah.
Right. And so not even considering that people who have either come from a war-torn country or have lived experience as being, you know, in the army or serving the country, that could be quite activating as well. Something I had never, an innocent phrase in the language, right? But something that connotes something very different from somebody who actually is struggling with their mental health.
Absolutely. Another one would be a belief or a value that you hold to yourself, that you bring to the forefront. Like for me, it's acceptance. And then recently I've heard that actually is very activating for other individuals that are living through some complex traumas and overcoming through PTSD. So it comes with, again, part of our training when we are sharing our story is from a trauma-informed lens. And the power of language is my new religion now, but it's also, I trip up. And just like you were saying, Crystal, that, I in the context of what you were sharing, like explaining as to that, absolutely. But when we are working with, or we're talking with, and this is not even from a work, this is who you see in the streets. We need to be mindful on what we say. So what, Canadian anecdotes or slang sayings, there is an opportunity for us now to take a pause as people who are trained to perhaps be more mindful when we share and when we speak, right? So yeah, the power of language. I think another one would be, triggers. We actually in RAP right now, we've replaced that and to call them stressors.
Sorry, Jen, what is RAP? Just in
RAP,
case people
so wellness recovery action planning. So I will, sorry, I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure that everybody knows what it is.
So it's something I will be talking more in depth with, but one of the things I found is that as a stressor, an opportunity would be to look for the glimmer. Which would be another way of kind of thing. And sorry, one more, shoulds. Oh my God, the shoulds.
Oh, yes.
The shoulds.
I always say you shouldn't should all over yourself.
Literally,
right?
Yeah.
I do think we have a responsibility as well. And this is something that I do in my own personal life, as well as my work life. And if people are using language that is stigmatizing or inappropriate, I'll call them out on it. I'm very much known for calling people out on their language.
Actually, just speak on that because that's part of the language. So I'm very proud of this about our agency, and I'm going to shoot it to the rafters. We created a code of civility within Stride, which Crystal, you were very much a very big part of. And I would perhaps invite, when you're having these conversations in the community, perhaps invite them in. Bring them in, ask them a little bit more. Why, can you explain to me the terminology you just used, or the word that you use? What's your intention in this context? Explain it to me. And perhaps you'd be open to see how that affected me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to approach with curiosity, right? That's the biggest thing. And you know what? I'm a big believer in looking at the intention, right? And I don't think anybody intentionally tries to harm anybody with the wording. And you know what? We've seen mental health evolve and grow from generation to generation. So it can be challenging for other generations. And I'm going to put that nicely.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yes.
offend anybody, of course.
Well, let's just call it woke awoke, right?
But think about it, 20 years
yeah.
ago, we would not have had this conversation, nor would we have had this conversation on a platform where all our millions of adoring fans would have access to it, right?
Jessica, how many
So-
people are watching? Don't tell us.
Bring us back to our wrestling days, the millions and millions of
But
people.
you're right. I think that we have evolved, and we have today this platform, this ability, this learning, this involvement. And I think this is a wonderful, wonderful way of empowering us to use language that is more
Mhm.
beneficial for better health, better wellness, better communication connections.
Absolutely. Right.
Awesome.
Another one that bothers me. There's a couple that bother me, and I'm worded of how, and I'm guilty of using them too, which is why they bother me just as much, because I'm gonna call myself in on this one. The word crazy,
Mhm.
gets used a lot. Like I said,
What do
so
you
guilty.
think of? What do you think of when you hear the term crazy? Do you know what I think of? I think of Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That is the first image that comes to mind. And there's a whole soapbox I can stand on about the media and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that because that's not what we're here to discuss today. But I do think we have the right and the responsibility to challenge when we see something that is not necessarily helpful or
Yeah.
perpetrates negative stereotypes.
So I
Awesome.
call in those that are just using it as, I think unintentionally,
Mhm.
knowing the impact. I will call out, as you just mentioned, and challenge those that continuously do it and really look for more of a resolution, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I think too, what I think of, Crystal, when you ask that, when I think of using the word crazy, I think of the Tasmanian devil from Bugs Bunny, just running
Oh.
around, just, like that's what I
Yeah.
think of, because I'm like, oh my God, like, because when I use the word crazy, and I'll use it in the context because, sharing as an example, I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going crazy. I've got all these things I need to do. And I do, and I picture the Tasmanian devil going over here and here and here and being pulled in like 500 different directions.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Nicole.
Yeah.
What word could you use in place of crazy?
In place of crazy, I like to use, there's a few different ones, depends on the context. But if I'm using crazy in the sense of being pulled in different directions, I might say I'm overwhelmed, or
Okay.
I might say I'm feeling very out of place.
Okay.
Is another one.
Discombobulated. I love that one.
Discombobulated. I love that word so much. It is one of my favorites. So that is definitely another one. Discombobulated sounds kind of nice.
Good.
Amazing.
Okay.
Great. I don't know. I'm trying to think of another one. When people say like, I'm so OCD.
Defining ourselves based on a diagnosis.
Not even if you have one though. There's some people that go, oh my God, I like things clean. I'm so OCD. Like
Mother Nature is so bipolar.
Right?
Ooh, yeah, I've had some conversations about that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, part of it is identifying, especially if people do identify with having mental illness or mental wellness, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We typically tend to want to say that we go person first language. So my name is Crystal. I am a person with lived mental health experience. I have this, and this.
Yes.
Some people, however, will say I am bipolar, and that's fine. It's going off of what the person, how they feel comfortable. But as a rule, we want to go person first, because I'm not my illness. An illness is part of me, but it does not define who I am.
Exactly. And I think it's also the evolution of how we are now processing that person-centered self-determination of health, right? Because this is new. We have been conditioned, so, as a society, doctors, blah, 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 on defining ourselves based on our diagnoses or our jobs or on something other than ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
right? So here we are today with that power of language, again, exploring how do we now change that, right,
Mhm.
narrative? How do we kind of now switch it? Beautifully identified, Crystal, thank you. So what else do we have on our agenda today? Perhaps we can go to,
We're
oh,
gonna
yes.
be moving towards our sharing of our stories. So before we do, so let's talk a little bit about grounding, because I think we're all gonna get nervous in about 30 seconds. So guilty. I'll use the force. I'll use the force.
Mm,
May the 4th, I'm gonna use the force and we're gonna do this. Should I do a grounding exercise with lightsabers? Just kidding.
meow. See, I do know what May the 4th actually means.
See, there you go. Chris don't know. She just likes messing with me. So when you're building your resilience story, getting grounded is really important because it allows you to get in that headspace, be present. It's a way for us to self-soothe when we are feeling overwhelmed or experiencing some unwanted feelings. So I'm going to walk us through, I think maybe a few minute grounding exercise that those who are watching on the live can do with us. If you're watching this after the live and it's recorded, you can pause it, join us, take the time that you need for you while building your story, whatever works for you.
Can I pause and then walk away? Sorry.
Take a moment.
joke
Let's
too.
just and come back, right? We're just gonna go right there, right? Team avoidance over here. But all right, so if we're grounding ourselves, I want you to sit in a position that is comfortable for you. Okay, have your feet on the ground, have your back on a chair if you're on a chair. If you're on the couch or if you're sitting on the floor, ground yourself in whatever you are sitting in. And if you want to do the standing, that works for you too, lying on your bed. Whatever position feels best for you, I want to welcome you to get into that position. Okay, we're going to take a moment. We're going to close our eyes if you feel comfortable. If not, you can also do this with your eyes open. Again, we are honoring your self-determination and what you feel safe in doing. As your eyes are closed or open, I want you to start taking a couple of deep breaths. You're going to inhale for a count of 4. You're going to hold for a count of 4. And then you're going to exhale for a count of 4. So I'll walk you through this. We're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to hold 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to exhale 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you keep doing this, any thoughts that come into your mind, just let them enter, notice them. Maybe you're worried about what you're going to write down. Maybe you're stressed about it and you feel it in your chest and your shoulders are tight. I want you to let all of that go with your breathing. So as I keep talking, doing that inhale, the count of 4, the hold for the count of 4, and the exhale for the count of 4, feeling all that tension and stress from your body start to release. And as you do, notice your feet planted on the ground. Notice how secure they are on the ground. Is the ground soft? Are you on your bed? Is your duvet comfy? Is it soft? What do you feel? And just ground yourself in that moment. And I want you to remember where you are today in your journey and how far you have come. You may not be where you want to be, and that is perfectly okay. But you are where you are today. And maybe that's even one step away from where you were yesterday and one step closer to where you will be tomorrow. And as you honor that and remember what that looks like for you, as you get in that headspace to write your story and build your resilience story, I want you to remember your strength and your resilience. And as you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4. I want you to remember that you are a warrior and you are a survivor, and you've survived 100% of your hardest days. And when it feels right for you and it feels comfortable, I want you to bring yourself back into the present moment. Take that last inhale for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. And I hope you're in a better headspace to not only write your story, but share it as well. And I'm going to bring us back to our panel because we are going to actually, before I guess, going one step ahead of me. Oops. Before we share our story, we're going to talk a little bit about self-care. So we've grounded ourselves, and that is a form of self-care because you're taking that moment for yourself to make sure that you are in a positive or at least wellness maintaining headspace. And taking time for your health and wellness, both physical and mental, is really important as it helps us manage our stress and anxiety. And it does not take a lot of time, and it may look different for everybody. So I'm going to just put us all on the spot here to say what self-care strategy, what are some, and I know we're probably going to share some as we share resilience stories. So spoiler alert. Oops. But what are some examples of some self-care strategies that you implement in your day?
I can share 2 of them with you right now.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. And when I get to a point where I feel that I'm catching my breath because my anxiety is just getting to that point, I just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Right? Because that makes me feel that I'm removing myself from that tension. I'm just like, I just need to kind of just disconnect. So that deep breath and an exhale out, forcefully allows me to do that. That and my squeegee. This is my other self-care. This is my ability to ground myself, to keep myself connected. So hopefully while I'm sharing my story, I won't be doing this. I am doing this to care for myself right now. There are a myriad of tools and strategies that I use, like the 49,000 that Crystal alluded to. But those are the 2 that I use right now.
Thanks, Jen. I think for me, one of the things that I had to learn, and ironically, the pandemic actually made it happen. I'm notorious for just working through breaks, working through lunches, just working all the time. And when we had to switch to working virtually, I realized I was literally sitting at my desk for like 10 hours a day. And I'm like, this is just not going to fly.
Yeah.
So I purposely removed myself from my office, like where I work at home, to go watch Netflix while I'm eating lunch, or go for a little walk, or do something like that. So I'd watch like a half-hour show. Like I rewatched Schitt's Creek probably 3 times during the pandemic. And just really made that boundary for myself and stuck with it. And I still do it now, because I've learned that it allows me that time to disconnect, to refocus on myself and get ready for the next whatever's happening. So that was one of my biggest things, especially when it comes to work and managing my calendar, not saying yes to everything, contrary to, everything, but
So important.
yeah.
So important. One that I did not include in my resilience story, which I think is really funny that I didn't, is chocolate. Chocolate, as many of you probably know, I would make the worst dietitian or nutritionist because I believe chocolate is a salad. So
do I. It totally is a salad.
It's totally a salad. It comes from the ground, it comes from cocoa beans, that's out in nature. So I feel like chocolate's a salad. So chocolate's a salad, ice cream's my dairy. It's great. I find excuses, popcorn's my grain. I've got all the food groups covered in terms of self-care snacks. So, and that's what I actually call them, is self-care snacks. And it's what snack am I going to snack on today for self-care? Well, now that I'm done rambling, what we are going to do is, we've talked a lot about different tools and strategies that we could use to build your resilience story. And what better way to help you in building your resilience story than to role model how to build your resilience story. So you are going to get today 3 different perspectives on how people built their resilience story. So we're going to just get started from there. And
I guess I'm going first, so.
Yeah. You
Okay.
are. Got this,
Well,
Crystal.
I could be the example of how to or how not to. You will have to decide. So it's been a very long time since I've shared my story in its entirety, many, many years. So I apologize if I fumble a bit. And I'm probably not going to remember all of the details. I do have notes here, several notes actually. Because I want to do it justice. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm going to share is my story and my story alone. I'm not pretending to be the expert on other people's lives. This is how I experience things. And for me, it is very much a part of who I am. And I have no shame now. I want to clarify that now. I have no shame in sharing any of that. So without further ado. So I guess for me, my journey into mental health, obviously I've had it my whole life. Everybody does, but I didn't recognize that there was something going on, and it was February of 2009. And this is a whole lifetime ago for me, completely different career, different area, different time in my life. And I couldn't sleep because I started worrying about snow. So I'll give you an example. It started on like a Tuesday night, and I heard there was going to be snow on the weekend, and it would keep me up all night, to the point that I was like, well, what if I can't get to work on time? What if I lose my job? What if I can't pay my bills? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to do this? And oh my God, what happens if I get in an accident? What happens if, the downward spiral that we can, just literally get into that dark area. To the point that I actually started having panic attacks when I was awake, not when I was sleeping, obviously. But I didn't know what they were. I didn't have the words for it. I just knew that something wasn't right. So I went to my doctor. I had a really great relationship with my doctor, and I have to recognize that I'm privileged to have a family doctor, and I'm privileged also that we live in a system where I can access medical care. I had a fantastic experience with the medical community. I also recognize that is not everybody's journey. But for my experience, I just lost my earbud. Very fortunate for that. So I went to my doctor. She'd been my doctor for 30 years. She's like, oh, kind of sounds like, you're struggling a little bit with anxiety. So we talked about medication, obviously not going to give details, but that was something that I was willing to try. Didn't help. And things actually progressively got worse. To the point, fast forward to like April-ish, I guess. So that this is going on a couple months. It's getting worse and worse. And I like to tell the story from the perspective, sorry, I'm laughing now. At the time, I was not laughing. I used to work in hospitality, and I had whole staff and all this fun stuff. And I had a breakdown, like my actual honest to goodness breakdown in front of my staff, laying on the kitchen floor of the hotel that I worked in, with my entire staff looking at me, and I could not move. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was dying, like think panic attack on steroids kind of thing. It was really, really, it was bad. So I got up and I walked off my job. I walked away, and I'm like, can't do this. Called my doctor, immediately pulled me off work. I spent 18 months off work. Now, I recognize I was very fortunate. I was in what you could call a career job. So I had benefits. I had insurance that I was able to continue being paid while I was off. I think it's also important to note that I'm also a sole support single parent. So I had my son, and it was just me and him. So if I wasn't working and had no income, I would be in a position that is a lot of single parents are in the position of in our country. And so I did medication. It took me a long time to find the right medication. I finally did, which is great, but medication only took me part way. It got me to the point where all of the stuff that I was trying to learn really took place. I'm much a bibliographic learner, as you can see from my massive bookcase behind me. So I read to learn. I remember asking my doctor very specifically, is there just a book I can read that can help me get better? And she kind of looked at me kind of, you know, like, oh, Crystal, if it was only that easy. I had a fortunate experience through outpatient clinic at a hospital and, you know, did therapy so hard that it wasn't working because my expectations of myself. I did CBT, which I personally hands down believe saved me. But you know, perfectionist that I am, I took it twice because I didn't really get it the first time. And I remember saying to myself and to my therapist, I don't think I'm getting there. She said, what are you not sharing? And so for me, it was, I had to say out loud and make real the things that I was thinking that was not ever shared with anybody. You know, the stuff that's really deep down in like your yucky bucket kind of thing. So that was my big piece. I had a lot of friends. I'm very fortunate. A lot of friends, a lot of support. My mom was instrumental in helping take care of my son. I was physically present. I was not emotionally present. And that's something that I have to carry with me. But I had to give myself permission. And this was a really hard lesson for me personally. I had to give myself permission to take care of myself first. People may or may not agree with that. It's not their choice. That was my choice that I had to make. And I do not regret it for a second because I couldn't be a parent or do what I do now if I hadn't have taken that time. Again, I really want to recognize that I have the privilege of that. I had the time off of work. I had time to go through it. Super excited to get back to work. I'd been in this career for a long time, long time, like over 20 years. And I went back to work and lost my job. I'm sorry. I was restructured. And so I use air quotes because I have my own personal opinions. However, aside from that, it was a pretty big wake-up call for me. And I decided that I need to do something so other people do not feel that they are alone. And so I was able to go back to school. I started volunteering in the community. I facilitated self-esteem programs and anxiety programs with another local nonprofit. It was like, that was my self-care as I was moving forward. And very fortunate to land with Stride, where I love my job. I've been here a very long time, and I get to share the experiences and help others on their journey, not as a peer per se, but definitely have the lived experience piece. So being able to step into somebody else's shoes. And I think when it comes down to it, we're not always one thing. I live with depression and anxiety, as well as obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which you may or may not be aware of, whatnot. I also have several traits of OCD thinking style. And again, these are terms, they are labels, if you will. For me personally, I find labels can be very helpful to get the help that you need. But as I mentioned earlier, it is not something that defines me. When I talk about my own personal experience, I often say that I really hope people have an opportunity to have kind of that mental breakdown piece. And I know that sounds really weird. I don't want people to suffer, obviously, but I think I was 35 at the time, getting to the point where I couldn't answer the question, who am I? And then I had an opportunity to re-examine my life and figure out what my purpose was, and to be allowed to fulfill that and do that every single day. I have to think it happened for a reason. Now, does that mean I'm better? No. I have days just like everybody else. Last week, I was watching a TV show on Netflix, and it activated a whole bunch of thoughts that took me to my bed for a day and a bit. And I kept notes. I took notes of how I was feeling and the thoughts I was having, because it was so intrusive that I had to take a step back from it and take a look at it afterwards. So just because I'm in recovery and I'm kind of on the other side, It doesn't mean I don't have days. It doesn't mean that my life is perfect. It is so far from perfect. Oh my goodness gracious. But you know what? I choose to put one foot in front of the other, and I have a supportive network. I continue to take medication. And I say that because that is very much a part of who I am and what is part of my recovery. And yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
Thanks so much, Crystal. Seems that you and I have a little parallels
Yeah.
to kind of commiserate with, right? So all my life, I've always known that there was something off about me, right? And I would love to just kind of highlight some of the things that I did, and I'll skip through some of the things that you've shared because a lot of the stuff that you've already, I didn't want to kind of, say again.
Oh no,
Um,
sorry, Jen.
No, I'm also, I'm quite aware of the time, so I want to make sure that we hit some of the key points here. So I've been living with different disorders, always, a new find every time I would go to the doctor, right? There was always something, oh, maybe it's this, oh, maybe it's that, and never really truly getting a true answer. And not only that, but it really led me to not really truly knowing myself, my skills, my strength. I was at the mercy of others, letting me know what they felt was my strength and my skills and what I was good at. So I can trace my self-confidence or my lack of self-confidence based on my previous traumas, whether it's with mental health, challenges with addiction, as well as a lack of guidance that I felt were missing during my key by key figures in my journey in my life, whether it was my parents, whether it's my, whoever was in my life up to this point. So it wasn't until I met my now spouse, but the man that I was destined to marry, was when things started to kind of click. So our getting together in 1989 was a critical turning point for me. Years later, as we were, formating our getting married, having kids and everything like that, I was working full time. I was averaging 80, 90 hours a week, and also trying to raise a young family. I had my two kids at this point. I never knew about self-care or putting in place strategies and work-life balance. I couldn't say no. So I would be saddled with some incredible projects and incredible things that everybody said, oh, Jen, you'll be perfect at that. And they would just go and go and go. And we are now faced with me trying to do everything. And I was burning the candle at both ends. And I was trying to be and do everything what others wanted of me. And I ended up ignoring all my warning signs. And that resulted in a total breakdown, which was in June of 2019. 2000, no, not 2019, 2000. When did I start here? 2015, 2014. So it took this wake-up call to really allow me to start looking at what supports would look like. So I started therapy and medications. It wasn't all that great. I then advocated for more. So that's when I was introduced to the OTMH, or the Oakville Trafalgar Hospital Day Program, which I felt was pivotal in my recovery because it also introduced me to Stride. And that was when I started needing to figure out what I want to be when I grew up, and I was 44 years old. I needed to take different aspects of the treatments that I was being shown, or strategies and tools, a little bit of DBT, a little bit of CBT, RAP, MDR, and all that. I needed to create my own brew, my own cocktail to make it work for me. And also learning and being part of Stride gave me the opportunity to learn and enhance those strategies, and also be part and be a facilitator for wellness recovery action planning. RAP changed my life. So one of the key strategies that I use, and others have heard me say this before, so I love this, is encompassing. I incorporate in my everyday the 5 key concepts of RAP. So the first one is hope. Every day is a day. I never know what it's going to be like. It's like a Crack-a-Jack box, but I know that I have hope that something's going to happen. I have my glimmers in this day, in this gloom, right? By having that hope, I know that I have that personal responsibility to figure out what I need, right? With the self-compassion of not judging it, just seeing it for what it is. If I need to educate myself, then it gives me that opportunity to do that so that I can start advocating for myself. And then also figuring out my supports and who can help me in that concept within my support team. My support team encompasses, again, from the 5 into 5 individuals or 5 people. And each end of these individuals have some incredible value and that help me and keep me going, with me also providing the grace to know that when they can't. So for instance, I can use my spouse, full 100% support and undivided love and devotion. The understanding piece can be challenging for him depending on where things are at. So I know that when I need somebody to really just sit and listen and really help me just kind of vent without a fix or a solution, I just need to vent, I'll go to my girlfriend. My girlfriend, who walks the same walk as I do, has the same kind of challenges that I do emotionally, as well as has a child that has the same kind of walking the same kind of path as my child is. So we have that commonality. The thing that I also know is that she doesn't have that much time for me. So again, going to the person next, that if I just want to vent or just maybe just not talk about things that are on my mind, just have a glass of wine and just chat and just be silly, I can go to my other girlfriend, right? And so on and so forth. So really using my supports in a way that benefit, and I know that they have limits, and also be there for them as well, right? Because it has to be reciprocal. Learning about mindfulness, self-awareness, and most importantly, self-love. Oh, that was such a beautiful thing to open up. I have had such a struggle for self-love and acceptance. And now that I'm at this stage, it is just such a beautiful thing. And so I love sitting in that. Finding affirmations. I'm a Facebook addict. I don't know about you guys, but I feel those affirmations, save. And I collect. And I love knowing that life isn't meant to be perfect. It's just to be lived and live to its fullest, and to be present to experience it all. And I'm so grateful and privileged to do that. So yeah, that's my story. Thanks.
And thank you for sharing. I have
Thanks,
to
Jen.
follow 2 wonderful stories and experiences. You will find I'm probably gonna look down low because I have everything written out that I'm gonna say. So when you look at me or you have a conversation with me, you see someone who is outgoing and bubbly. You see me and think, wow, she's got her life together. But this was not always the case. And I'm going to take the next little bit to explain to you and give you a glimpse of the struggles I've faced and how they've made me into a strong, somewhat stubborn, resilient person that's here today. When I was little, I had to manage some physical health challenges. And to cope with this, I had to stick to a pretty strict routine. And because it was crucial. And looking back now, I can probably say that that is my earliest memory of struggling with obsessive compulsive disorder and anxiety. So even though I didn't know it at the time. So an example of that my family and I still laugh at, and if any of them are viewing, they probably know exactly where I'm going to go. But I had something called granola bar day, and it was on Mondays and Fridays. And every Monday and every Friday for breakfast, I had to have granola bars. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me how this started. I have no idea, but it was granola bar day. It was so much granola bar day on Mondays and Fridays that if we had pizza, let's say over the weekend, I needed to have granola bar day. My mom would be like, holy, like there's leftover pizza in the fridge, like have that for breakfast. And every kid would be like, yeah, pizza for breakfast. This is great. No, not me. It's granola bar day. That's what it is. How can you change that on me? I would get so upset and anxious, right? So I would not have pizza for breakfast because it was granola bar day. So that is what I had. And that's one of the earliest examples. There are plenty, right? Like now today when I drive my car, for example, one of my compulsions is, am I gonna be safe when I'm driving, right? So I'm constantly thinking of ways to stay safe. So I play the green light game for that. I always tell myself the color of the light so that I'm present in the moment. But with depression though, I noticed that later in life, right? So I was probably 12 when I noticed it. I couldn't tell you when it started. I couldn't tell you why it started. I have no recollection. But I do remember dealing with feelings of sadness and hopelessness, thinking that it wouldn't get better. I remember thinking that if this is the way life was going to be, maybe living wasn't for me. But one thing you should know about me is that I am a fighter. Life has knocked me down more times than I can count, and I have dealt with more in life than what people may deem fair. But I always get back up. My favorite saying is, you have survived 100% of the hardest days you thought you couldn't. And that couldn't be more true to my story. When I look back at the lowest moments of my life and I compare them to where I am today, 2 words come to mind: twistedly grateful. I do not necessarily like every experience I've had in my life. I don't like some things that I've endured. I don't even like thinking about them or reflecting on them, but I am grateful for every single one of them. My wellness journey involved a lot of self-reflection, healing, and therapy. I have been able to work through the experiences I have had and develop coping strategies that work for me. If you would have told me at one of my lowest points that I would be working full-time as an employment peer mentor, training volunteers on a distress line, and doing my bachelor's part-time online, I would have laughed in your face. I would have been, there's no way. I was like, nope, you're making this up. This is not happening. You're on your own. But when I got diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and OCD, which was officially in my 20s, so that probably gives you a glimpse of how long I suffered and tried to experience things before I finally got diagnosed, I thought having mental illness meant my life was over. But this certainly, obviously, is not the case, and that was stigma talking. Today, I am here with Crystal and with Jen and with Matt and Jess on this live telling you that living with mental illness is possible. I still have some bad days, but because of the support system I have built and the coping strategies I use, the number of bad days compared to the number of good days is far less than ever before. Some of my favorite coping strategies that I use today are singing, writing, exercising, watching TV shows that I enjoy, and dancing it out like Grey's Anatomy taught me to, obviously, because if you can't dance about it, what you got? You know what I mean? So to recap, my mental health has had a lot of ups and downs. Wellness and recovery are not linear, and they're a journey, not a destination. I will openly and honestly tell you, if you ask me, that I don't like everything that I've experienced in my life, but it brought me to who I am and where I am today. And for that, I am grateful each and every day. So when developing your resilient story, my advice is this: engage in self-reflection. Remember where you started and honor where you are today. You may not be where you want to be yet, but that's okay, because you still have forever to grow.
Amen to that.
It's amazing. You ladies inspire me so much.
It's been an absolute honor, guys, to be part of this with you. You know, we've always had a really good camaraderie at work, but this kind of solidifies more of that understanding and that deep respect. So thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to join you guys in doing this with you. It's been an absolute honor.
And
I
thank
have-
you so, sorry. Thank you so very much to our presenters today, and thank you for everyone joining us. Just a few closing remarks to finish everything up. At Stride, we'd like to announce that we have launched our new Stride Connect and Chat, which is our web chat service. So if you head to our website, you will notice in the bottom right-hand corner a convenient little chat button. During our normal business hours, please feel free to send us a message, and one of our specialists will be happy to connect with you through the Stride Connect and Chat. We also want to take a moment to highlight the fact that Stride is now part of Give Rise. So Give Rise is an excellent thrift for a cause virtual thrift store. So if you're on the market for any variety of interesting things, please head over to giverise.ca and give it a quick look over. All of your purchases do go towards local charities. All of the information will be on the vendor's website on Give Rise. And again, a portion of those sales do go back to the community organizations and charities that they're partnered with. So once again, thank you to Jessica, who was running our virtual Facebook chat today. Thank you to Jen, Nicole, and Crystal for sharing your stories. And thank you to all of you for joining us virtually for Live at 5. And please don't forget, if you're not already following us, to take a moment and follow us on any of our social media. Our handle is Stride for Work, and you'll find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So thank you again so very much, and we hope you have a great rest of your week and practice those mindfulness strategies. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.